Welcome back to Firecast. This happens to be the Daily Show, part of the program. I'm Ron Daly. I'm the strategic partner lead for the Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative. We serve 22 school districts here in rural Appalachian Kentucky and the coalfields and beyond. And so we're here with Gary Chapin, who just presented at the National Summit for Micro-Credentials. And you're doing some exciting work based out of Boston. You live in Maine, but you're the Senior Director of the Center for Collaborative... Senior Associate Director, yes.
Yeah, don't let my boss hear that.
Okay, for collaborative education. So, Gary, what brings you to Kentucky to this particular summit? Why is it a value?
Well, we're engaged in a 3-year-long research project about micro-credentials, and this is through the Assessment for Learning project, which is funded by Next Generation Learning Challenge. And sort of the task that we've taken on is designing a set of micro-credentials around performance assessment, and then trying to help districts or states figure out how can those micro-credentials live within their professional learning systems. Like how can they work alongside the things that teachers have to do to be recertified or to get graduate credit? So is there a way for micro-credentials to play that role as well?
Okay. So how valuable are micro-credentials to the professional development, professional learning?
It's interesting that you asked me that, because when we started this project, I had not heard of micro-credentials, literally. I said micro what? But right now their value is potential value. I think they could provide a huge value for a number of reasons. For one, the teachers can set their own career paths through micro-credentials. They can choose where they want to learn, so it's not dictated by a district. For another, they require that teachers actually demonstrate understanding rather than just going through seat time at a conference or something, so that when a principal sees this badge, if it's reputable from a reputable source, they will know that that person has demonstrated this skill, and I think that's valuable. The other is that it allows teachers to it's radically individualized professional learning. So if a teacher just says, I want to learn about I want to learn how to create competency-based rubrics, they can just do that one micro-credential, and they can do the learning for learning. It doesn't have to be for certification. So it's a career pathway, it's a vetting tool, and it's a way of just learning. And it doesn't require you don't have to take a graduate course in order to do just the rubrics part. So I think it offers a lot of potential.
Well, we as educators can get down in the weeds. We have our own jargon. Mm-hmm. So micro-credentials was a word that, until you got started, was not that familiar. So for the public, what is the value for the public to understand what micro-credentialing means?
Well, the public has an idea of what does it take to be a certified teacher. They have this vision of it. They trust that teachers are certified. And so for somebody who's not actually involved in education, it's important that the public understand that the micro-credentials have this currency or this credibility. So it's important that the states treat them with the seriousness that a certifying office might receive news about a course, and then they'll look at the course to see whether or not it's rigorous enough to be used for certification. They should treat micro-credentials the same way. The public needs to know that its teachers are certified, and to the extent that they understand that micro-credentials can do that, that's what they need to know.
Well, and piggybacking on what you're saying, this is a very important part of the certification. But beyond certification, just to upgrade a teacher's skills in an area they want to.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond just meeting the requirements of certification.
Absolutely. I mean, there are other professional ways that they're learned. In Kettle Moraine, Wisconsin, folks get a raise for every micro-credential they do. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. In New York City, there's the New York Performance Assessment Collaborative, which is 40 different schools, and they have their own micro-credentials. So if you want to be a curriculum leader, you get their micro-credential, and then you're eligible for these professional advances to being a teacher leader. So there are steps. You don't just have to go from being a teacher to being a principal. If you can do these steps through the micro-credentials. So there are different ways, different rewards that happen, and different incentives. But really, you're right. It's if the person wants to really understand assessment, which apparently is challenging.
Well, as you mentioned, you've been involved in this project just for a relatively short time.
18 months. 18 yeah.
So, as a learner, what have you learned about what's going on in the classroom, what's going on with teachers, what's going on in professional learning?
Well, I was shocked at how ubiquitous the disapproval of professional development has been. I knew that people grumble about professional development, but I didn't realize how universally dissatisfied people were with their professional learning. And I was shocked by how when people are given a choice, just how much they appreciate that, because you think, well, of course people should be given a choice. It's basic respect. But I think it's a measure of how disrespected they feel by professional development that when they're given this choice, they feel like tremendous ownership of the micro-credentials. I was surprised by how hungry people were to have substantive issues to talk about, to be working together on professional learning in their professional learning communities. I mean, all the schools we worked with in the first phase had professional learning communities, but they were kind of moribund. But when they started working on the micro-credentials, they felt like they really came alive because they had something to work on together. So there was this common cause, and it was substantive.
I liked what Michelle Mills from Tennessee used that term. The micro-credentials program gives teachers a choice and a voice.
Yep.
And as we know, teachers have to work so hard anyway, and so anything that we can do to provide a learning, professional learning, enhancement of their teaching ability in an easy way, or not an easy way, but a convenient way, is important.
Well, anytime anybody thinks about what was the great learning time in my life, the story starts with, well, I decided I wanted to learn this. They decided themselves that they wanted to learn something. I decided I wanted to learn to play the accordion. And that's the first thing that makes it a great learning experience. If you don't have that, then you're sabotaging yourself.
Well, hey, Gary, thank you so much for traveling all the way from Maine to come to Hazard to be on the Daily Show and to be part of this national summit.
Well, thank you. Thank you.